Hi, this is Margaret Linker here at Studio A at the USC Annenberg School for Communication and Journalism. I'm here with two guests, and we're talking about teaching English in a foreign country. So first, we have Patti Paglia here. She taught English in Germany. Thank you for being here today, Patti.
You're welcome.
And then from TCU, we have Shannon Quinn, who is an education major, and she just got home from teaching English for a month in the Netherlands. Welcome back to the U.S., Shannon. Hope you're doing well.
Thank you. I am so happy to be back. There's no place like home.
So first, I want to hear about what was the biggest takeaway, the number one thing you learned, Patti, while teaching English in Germany.
Probably the number one thing I learned was the joy of teaching, how fun it is to be with students, and how much students really teach me. They give back a lot if I'm ready to learn from them. And they gave me a lot of confidence.
What about you, Shannon? What do you think was the biggest takeaway from being in the Netherlands?
I think the biggest takeaway for me is throughout all my education courses at TCU, I learned so much about child-centered learning. And in the Netherlands, child-centered learning is all that they do. And so it's really cool to see it firsthand and kind of take the positives from that and hopefully implement that into my classroom one day.
That's wonderful. So Patti, what do you think is one thing that the schools do in Germany that you think we should do in the U.S.?
Well, this school was different because I was living there and I was also trying to learn the language. So as I was a student, they asked me if I would teach English. So this was not the same type of university or teaching that she's in. What they did differently there was very hands-on. So I don't know how different that was from here, but that's the little that I know that, what they offered was more hands-on, more educational in kind of just constant conversation, conversation at the school.
That's fascinating. Shannon, what do you think we do in the U.S. that you brought to the school in the Netherlands, or maybe something that they should start implementing there?
Well, one thing that's kind of a positive and a negative is in the Netherlands, they really didn't discipline or they had a free spirit in what they could do. And because of that, there was a lot less structure, which I think is something that they talked about when I was discussing with teachers and administrators, is that they want more structure. And one thing I noticed is that they barely discipline the students if they were off task. So maybe that by them implementing more structure and more focus into the students, that would really improve and kind of bring that. Although it was awesome that they had all this child-centered learning and was focused about the child, they really miss out on a lot of instruction time because they let them work so freely.
That makes sense. Shannon, what do you think the student-teacher relationship is like then? Do you think the student and teacher are closer because there's less discipline?
I actually think they are, because they kind of are more on an even playing field, if that makes sense, because the teacher isn't really seen as an authority figure. It's more of a relationship as they're just kind of scaffolding and helping and assisting the student rather than they're learning everything from the student. I was also in a Montessori school, so that is also a little different because that is completely child-centered learning, and that is completely the teacher having barely any control in authority over the classroom. But it definitely works for those students, but I think it would really improve if they could have a little bit more discipline.
Totally, that makes sense. So Patti, tell me how teaching in Germany and just living abroad prepared you for your life when you came back to the U.S. with your career.
The life lessons were just incredible. I think when you move and you have to live someplace else different from what you're used to, you grow at a spiritual level. You grow in so many ways that are not measured by a degree because you're way out of your comfort zone. And I didn't realize at the time, I was only 21, and I was there, and I was teaching. I came back, and I was a lot more confident. And I felt as though I can do a lot of things, and I related well to people. I didn't know that I had this capacity of teaching. I've always fallen into teaching jobs, and it gave me a lot of confidence. And it showed me that it can be a lot of fun. It was really a lot of fun, so it gave me confidence overall.
That's great. Shannon, do you have anything you want to ask Patti?
Yes, Patti, I'd love to know if you have any advice for entering the workforce after your experience abroad. What advice you got from that?
And Shannon, you're you're choosing to be a teacher, correct?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, which I think is one of the best professions that you can choose, and I'm so proud of you to choose that because we need good, inspirational teachers. And
yes, we do.
we do, because when a child is inspired or anybody's inspired, they want to come to your class, and when they're respected and when you're respecting them, you have created an environment that is just so pleasurable and perfect. And I think as you enter the workforce, you're going to take those experiences with you, and just being open and vulnerable and letting the students teach you and always being flexible, you're never going to go wrong with that as your recipe.
Well, that was great advice. And I really enjoyed talking to both of you today. Shannon, thank you so much for Skyping in from Fort Worth, Texas. Really nice to have you on my show. And Patti, thank you for coming in. Loved hearing about Germany and your time there.
Very welcome.
It sounds like you really learned a lot. And again, I am Margaret Linker here in Studio A at the USC Annenberg School for Communication and Journalism.